Are we going to make
Hey,
this a
guys.
practical stream?
Yeah, that was my plan for tonight. I wanted to do a practical application stream.
We're not practical?
Oh, we are very practical, but we still need to learn. And if I need to learn, probably other men need to learn too.
Well, and some of our streams deal a lot with abstract, right? We do a lot of thinking in our streams, which is good, and I love thinking. But occasionally, you got to get your hands dirty and really, got to work.
Sometimes you got to apply your thoughts.
Yeah. So
imagine that.
So we're going to do a little bit of that tonight. And what we're going to talk about is I have 4 examples of arguments that we have all probably seen or had used against us. And I guess, we're doing this a couple days before the Christmas holidays. So you all are going to be around your families. And, maybe if you listen to what we have to say tonight about some of these arguments, you'll hear them and you'll go, wait, I know how to deal with that. And you can use these arguments, you can use these responses all over in your life. So we're looking for kind of a practical episode tonight. So without further ado, the first one I want to talk about is one that you've probably all heard, and at least amongst our audience, I'm not too worried about you guys falling victim. And that's the Lemmings argument, which is more or less everybody agrees with me, so why don't you? Now, in the context of women, they're most likely to use this argument on other women. I mean, women are.
You mean like Team Woman?
Yes, exactly. There's the Team Woman is an argument of Lemmings. All women herd together, and so they push themselves off the cliff.
So it's like an appeal to the majority, in a sense.
It isn't. Yes,
well, it's kind of like the herd mentality. The herd is over here. Why are you over there? Come with the herd. This is what the herd believes.
The herd is safe, right?
Nah.
Well, sheep, yes, sheep herds, herds of gazelle, prey. And here's a thought to think about, you girls. Prey animals herd together. So you of the sisterhood out there are basically admitting that you are the weaker sex because you're saying I'm the prey animal. And so I have to group together with my girlies who will defend me from the evil men. And that is exactly what they do.
Well, yeah, because if they stray from the herd, the lone wolf is going to come in and capture them.
And they might enjoy that.
They kind of do.
So
what?
So for you women out there and you guys out there, because one of the things that I've also seen is that women will frequently go to men and they will say, everyone agrees with us about insert feminist bullet point here. So why don't you agree with us? You claim you're a feminist, man who, believes in the equality of women. Why don't you agree with us? Well, what's the typical defense you think that guys tend to use?
Usually you go into logic and say, well, this doesn't seem consistent, and you try to logic your way out of it, which is kind of a failure because women don't logic like men do.
Right. So you might say, I'm not a lemming. Well, of course I'm not a lemming. I'm a man. Right? You might
my existence equals a boost.
Well,
You just take it away from them.
well,
You just say,
that is
not only that,
the
I'm everything worse.
that is the correct response, right? The correct response is not. So this is an example of the woman's trying to, and this is a lightweight example. This is not a very powerful example. Herds are not inherently powerful, but or they're only inherently powerful as a herd. When they're dealing with a localized chunk of the herd will give itself up, to satiate the predator, or will lose to satiate the predator. Anyway, it's an emotional appeal to your human desire for a tribe, and even men have a human desire for a tribe, right? We do.
It's like peer pressure.
Yeah. Are men as subject to peer pressure? Not necessarily in all cases, but it's still there.
That's been a particular problem with me growing up. I was never really very subject to. I was like in elementary school, but I got over it. I got in trouble too many times for doing stupid things.
Well, there's an example of a type of man who is very influenced by this. The nice guy.
There it is. There it is.
Oh, yes. If I go along to get along, then I will be
Mhm.
accepted and liked. I have to be nice to be liked. So even if it compromises my beliefs, I just go along with it. Because then they will like me.
Right. So
And that is the majority of your pastors out there, guys. No spineless cowards that just want to be nice and appease all the ladies and the
well,
bars.
Okay.
Nick.
Okay. I need to say this right here. You can be a good man and not be nice.
Yes.
Yes.
Well-
Nice is not a virtue.
Well, Nick, we've been talking about how pastors have to pander to the women. So doesn't it make
Mhm.
sense then that they would be on team women, that when the women say, well, everyone agrees with us, why don't you?
Oh yeah, there's that Eli Mc whatever his name Mc blah blah. He's kind of a limp wristed guy. Yeah, he's talking to me about that today. He's like, yeah, you're this terrible abusive man that you know towards your family. They had to flee halfway across the country because you're a bad man. Team woman. No
Right.
analysis of the facts.
Well,
But your actions caused her to feel bad. You hurt her
Oh, you mean I actually
feelings.
I took my balls back?
Yes, and you violated the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not hurt a woman's feelings.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's called emotional abuse or verbal whatever. Or
Yes,
that's why I
but
just say at
that
this
all
point, like,
falls under
hey,
the
I just show up in a room, I'm automatically like, my mere presence, my mere existence is abuse.
I
That's
know you're.
because you don't
Go ahead.
placate and pander, Nick.
Well, and
Not time for that
remember,
shit anymore.
Nick, and remember that for a lot of the women and a lot of the herd, the simple existence of the lion is a threat.
Uh-huh.
Right? I mean that's herd mentality 101. You join the herd because the lion is a threat. And of course, I can stretch this metaphor really far and still have it stick, because occasionally the herd has to give up a member of the herd to the lion. And that always, the lion always gets its meal, like, or not always, but it most often gets its meal, right? The lion is going to win most of the time. Now, the greater herd might be okay. The greater herd might escape, but it's going to give up a woman now and then, and occasionally those women come over here to the dark side of the internet.
Do not
Usually what
underestimate
happens
the power of
is
the dark side.
a woman separates herself from the herd, get ravaged by the lion, and then goes running back to the herd and says how terrible it was until she does it again.
Mm-hmm. So there we go.
So
There's
the
your
lemmings.
there's your clippable moment. We just called women lemmings. There you go. That's how we're gonna be remembered
Okay,
now.
so we're kind of an older group. I don't know if the younger generation knows what the lemmings are.
Well, lemmings are a species of rodent that live way up in the north. And what would happen is the herds of lemmings, they're a prey animal. They're way down on the biological food chain. And but every few years there would become so many of them that, and people will say, oh, they were psychologically driven to jump off a cliff. And the answer is no, not really. What usually ends up happening is the herd ends up getting cornered, and lemmings in their fear would literally just push over the cliff, and a bunch of them would fall to their death. And I mean, these animals are not smart at all.
They had like a video game too back in the day. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody ever.
Yeah. But and then between the predators and the falling off cliffs to their deaths, that would thin the herd out. And that was part of it, their biological cycle. So, but yes, they are a real thing.
So you say is peer pressure and what else? The lemmings.
Well, the lemmings, it's peer pressure, but it's also just like with all herds, it's also just a need to be in a group. The argument of the lemmings is everyone agrees with me. The group agrees with me. You are going against the group, therefore you're wrong and bad, but mostly wrong. The group agrees that feminism is the correct answer. And if you disagree, you're wrong and bad.
So there's a herd of lemmings, a group of lemmings, up on a plain. They see a threat. And then they all run from the threat. Kind of becomes a mob mentality. Everybody's moving in a certain direction. The ones behind are pushing the ones in forward, and we're all moving in this direction. And the plain, at the edge of the plain, there's a cliff. They will keep running in that direction until they go off the cliff because something scared them. And then they all move as one to their demise. Is that also accurate?
Well, you know, when I don't know if you're in your childhood, this phrase came up, but it's like if everybody jumped off a cliff, would you do it too?
Well, the answer to young boys is you get 6 boys up on a roof. The first one says, I'm He-Man, and he jumps off the roof. How many of the other boys are going to jump off the roof to prove they can do it too?
A good number of them. And yeah, I heard that phrase growing up too. And I heard it as if everyone jumped off a bridge, would you jump too?
No, yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about that argument though is because when somebody says it to you, you go, well, of course I wouldn't jump off a bridge. I don't want to die. Right. But when you apply it to larger scale problems like feminism, all of a sudden the tribe takes over. The point, one of the points of this argument, and the reason it works as well as it does, is because that need for tribe is built deep into our psychology.